Welcome back to the Ponca City Monthly podcast. I'm your host, Andy. And this week something I've really wanted to do is bring in local authors and talk to them. If you've watched the podcast for any period of time, you know that I actually started my career interviewing authors and movie makers. And so that's kind of where I started. So it's always fun for me to bring people in to talk about their books and stuff, but we haven't actually had anybody. So this is our first one and I'm super excited about it. And since it's October, I thought it'd be fun to do maybe a scary book. So Kaleb, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you today? Thank you for having me.
I'm fantastic. So Kaleb wrote the great Kaleb Bankston.
Yes, Bankston.
Wrote the great book, The Boatman. And it's brand new. You're a brand new author. This is your first book.
First published novel, yes.
Nice.
I've written several things over the years, but the new year hit this year, and I was like, it's been a lifelong dream of mine, and I needed a New Year's resolution this year, and I said, I'm going to publish a book. And somehow I did it. So
were you always did you always enjoy writing and doing writing stuff like that? Or where did this come from? Or was this just like, hey, everybody else is doing it?
Well, I mean, that's super helpful that everyone else is doing it now, right? Because that helps for discoverability. But no, I've actually been a writer my whole life. My first story I wrote was a ripoff of the movie Flatliners. To which I gave to my dad, and he went, "This is plagiarism. Get rid of this." But I was probably 10 years old when I did it. We had just watched the movie, and I was like...
Are you talking Flatline with Keith Sutherland? And
yes.
You're not that old. Huh? You're not that old.
I'm 28. My dad liked older movies. Okay. But that's also another reason why was my stepdad was a aspiring author before you could just go and self-publish. But he spent, a couple of years writing a book. It was called Dimension of Evil, and he would print it off at the local library and ship it off to Penguin Random House and other publishers and just trying to get it published, and it never worked for him, unfortunately. But I always admired his dedication to it because it took him years to write it, and then on top of that, years of attempting to query it, send it out to publishers and get it published. And I really admired that, and he inspired my love of horror. I started reading horror novels far too young. I remember there was a Scholastic program for fifth grade in elementary school, and for you read a certain amount of pages and you donate money to a charity was the whole thing, if I'm remembering right. It's something like that.
Yeah.
But instead of reading, Captain Underpants or whatever, I picked up the Rising by Brian Keene and read that in one sitting. And I went, oh, this is awesome.
Nice.
And proceeded to read all of his stuff and then branch out to other horror authors. And I've written several short stories over the years that published under different pen names that I would never attribute to my name now. But they're out there somewhere if you want to sleuth. So
nice. So we were talking about this a little bit before we kicked off. Why? Because you don't put first of all, you said it was because of the length of the letters, but also to keep some anonymity. I'm terrible at those words.
Yep. No, my author name, if you will, is K Bankston instead of Kaleb Bankston. Obviously I'm not hiding who I am, but it's a shortened version of my name for purposes of covers. Right. Or the spines, because if you have a really long name, I think my name is 12 or 13 characters long. And you don't want to stack the name and stuff like that. So I shortened it to K Bankston. And then that also gives me a layer of brand protection, because then I can be I'm K Bankston and not Kaleb Bankston. So it's my persona or brand or whatever, which gives me a layer of protection, which I promptly threw away by doing a podcast. So
the secret's out now, and it's going to be on YouTube, so they can search you out, because I'm gonna keyword this thing. So.
Oh heck yeah! No, everyone see this podcast, please.
Yeah. Have you discovered Book Talk yet?
I have. I am on all the social medias: TikTok, Instagram, whatever. You can find me at K Bankston Writes. But I have not had very much success.
Okay.
Mostly because Book Talk is geared towards romance and romantasy and that. That's been the huge explosion since, want to say since COVID. I mean, it's always been a thing, right? You've got like Nora Roberts and them that are just prolific in their genre. But I'm on there. I'm trying. Right now I'm working on just being comfortable talking to a camera.
Sure.
Which is a very foreign thing to do if you're not used to it. Because you're just sitting in your car going, yeah, check out my book. And then you close it and you go, I feel like an idiot. Like,
I can totally relate to that. I feel that 100% all the time. Wanting to, because it's that double-edged sword of you have to market yourself, but at the same time, it's like, whenever
you also don't want to.
When I make clips of myself, I'm like, it's dumb. Who's gonna watch that?
Right.
But yeah, it's part of it. So, your dad kind of inspired the horror aspects of it.
Yes.
So you just sort of gravitated toward that, and were always kind of interested.
Yeah. I mean, between horror books and movies and stuff like that, I mean, I've always been a horror fan. I've always known that was my genre. I would want to write. My creative writing teachers in like high school would read my stuff and be like, "That's bleak, dude." Like, because everyone else is writing about dragons and romance and whatever else, like lit fic and stuff. And I've always been interested in the scary, macabre monsters, stuff like that. And I think people expect those type of writers to be, you think of the old, like Stephen King, for instance. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to him at all, but he's got that look about him where it's just a little creepy, stuff like that. And that could be a brand, but you look at people like that and people look at me and I'm a fairly friendly guy, I'd like to think. And you're like, you write horror? Oh yeah, it's pretty bleak too, like, but I think I like horror mostly because it makes the real world not seem so bad.
Right.
Because when you talk about like, slasher films and these people are getting like torn apart and stuff, and then you're like, oh, well, my boss yelled at me. It doesn't feel so like the gravity of it's gone at that point.
Yeah.
So
tell me about, how did you come up with the idea of the Boatman?
That's an interesting question. It really, so there's a book I read right before I started writing this. It's Stephen King's On Writing. It's basically his memoir of the craft, and if you've even familiar with it at all, you've probably read or heard of it. But he says something in the book like, stories are not created, they're found. That you consider yourself like an archaeologist, that you're uncovering it and then bringing it to life, rather than. That's kind of how it felt when I was writing it, because I had a very vague idea of where I wanted to go. And some writers are very much planners. They'll be like, this chapter we're doing this chapter we're doing this, but I like to just kind of, it's called pantsing it, like seat of your pants, right? And just going for it and discovery writing. And it just kind of unfolded in front of me. And then you take that first draft pile of garbage and then you write a second draft to straighten it out. So that was my process and idea of coming up with it. Outside of the book itself, has a amalgamation of everything I love about horror for the first thing. I mean, if you want to really get a bird's eye view of it, you've got a cloaked monster man, you've got ghost children, you've got zombies, you've got like it's in a, it's one zombie, I guess, but it's a very kind of a love letter to the genre for my first novel. It doesn't feel like that when you're writing it. When you're reading it, it's not like one thing after another. It doesn't feel like a mashup of anything. It's very, I think it's very good, if I can pat myself on the back. But that's the gist of it, of where it came from. Is it's just kind of everything about horror I love put into a Western town in the 1800s.
Yeah. So I have to tell you that I read the first chapter. I didn't know anything about the book. I just literally just turned it flipped to chapter 1 and started reading. I think I got to chapter 2 before I realized it was a Western. And then I was like, this is a Western. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
What made you so we knew that you were into horror, but were you also into Western, or was that just a theme that you threw in?
It's set in like a Western type location, right? But I wouldn't consider it a Western. It's Western horror, I guess. I didn't intend it to be that time period in the town. I think it, with the theme of the book being like, religion and faith and stuff like that, that time period of our country was very tough for a lot of people. And that's what they leaned on was religion and faith to get through hard times. And my book kind of subverts that and is like, well, what happens when the things you believe in aren't what you expect them to be? And that's kind of the thesis of the novel, and the setting of late 1800s kind of Western town made sense for the subject matter.
Okay. So more of a period piece, not so much a Western.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I thought it was really great. Like I said, I thought it was fun. I did like I said, the cowboy aspects of it.
Yeah.
What's the cow? Is his name Steve? What's the cow?
Sawyer.
I didn't begin with an S. Yep. I couldn't remember it. Yeah, I liked him. His adventures were kind of fun.
Yeah. Very smooth talking kind of guy. It was very, very fun to write him. All the characters, actually.
Did you write yourself into the story?
I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as an author,
which character were you?
I would say all of them. Right. They're all pieces of you. I mean, you write what you know, whether or not you know it or not. So like Father Boone is a very self-depreciating kind of down in the dumps guy. Boone is a smooth talking, happy, I'd say Boone again. Sawyer is a very smooth talking kind of people person kind of deal. And then the third POV character of the book, Desiree, is more of a outcast and trying to, navigate the world she's in. So I think between all of those three characters and some of the side characters, if you mash them up, you get me for all intents and purposes. I think every author writes characters that are at least in some part them.
Yeah. Like I said, it was fun. The creepy girls were a great part to come into.
Yeah.
What were they based on, or how did you come up with them?
It's just a horror trope, right?
Yeah.
You got creepy ghost girls. You think of The Shining. They're in the hallway holding hands and the elevator opens up and stuff like that. It's a fun trope, right? It's classically creepy. It also serves the plot of the story. They're more important than they seem right off the bat.
Right.
So,
see,
can't spoil it right off the bat.
Right.
But,
see, that's why I don't read the whole book before I do these interviews, because I would spoil it. I'd be like, oh, and at the end when they do that, and then you would be like, no, don't tell people that.
Yeah. So if you want to know,
you have to read it, because I strategically don't do the book before I do these interviews. I read most of the book so I know what's going on. Yes. So whenever there is the scene in the again, I read the first half. So what I'm going to talk to you about is in the first half. When he kind of first Boone. Sorry. When Father Boone first encounters the Boatman and he's on the steps, the image I got in my head was the guy from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
He's sitting there and he hits the paddle on the stair steps. And so that was sort of my thing of like, in my head, that's what I saw. But is that kind of where... Did he look like? What does he look like to you? Because I always like to know what.
Kind of like in my head, he's like a Grim Reaper type character. He's got cloaked, except there's no clothes. He's kind of more of an ethereal, kind of smoky creature that holds an oar because he's the boatman, of course.
Right.
But it's further into the book, he gets explained a little bit more in terms of visuals. But that's the first time he's mentioned or visually seen in the book, and it's just supposed to be menacing, and it doesn't quite make sense. The space kind of warps around him, and it's then Boone falls down and gets swallowed up by the mud. So it's a very wet book.
Yes, there's lots of water.
Yes, everybody's been raining all the time,
getting drenched. Also, Sawyer and the Spire, is that kind of again, I haven't gotten to the end because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but is that sort of a sci-fi aspect? Or is that still the...
Yeah, so that was...
he has the spire that he's following.
Yeah. So it's... going back to it's kind of an amalgam of horror that I've loved, right? And that's kind of a touch of... I keep trying to like pin down a genre, if you will, for it, you know, because that's what's important to people. And I think it mostly falls under folk horror. Once you get to the end and it all kind of starts to make sense. It really starts off as like a religious horror thing, but there's also elements of cosmic horror. You think of like Event Horizon, which is what that scene is really not referencing, but is really inspired by. And it's just of the kind of Lovecraftian unknown. Like you see something and you go, I don't even know how to process this, you know, and you know, not that Lovecraft is a great person by trade or even, you know, hot take, a great author. You know, you can't describe a horror as undescribable. That's your job as an author to describe it. That's kind of the dips into the cosmic and folklore area of the novel. And that happens in chapter 3. So you get a nice jumping off point from there, because chapter 1 starts, 2 is pretty good, and then 3 really throws you into the 5, not 3, 5. By the time you get to chapter 5, you should be like flipping pages.
I figure by the time we meet Sawyer, that's when things are starting to go off the rails.
Yes.
Because that's when all
yeah, it's very fast paced. From what I've heard from early reviewers and readers and stuff, is that like I had someone the other day, so it's on Kindle Unlimited as well. For readers that don't, or people that don't know what that is, you can pay Amazon $11.99 a month, I think it is, and you can get access to millions of books. Some of them good, some of them not. Your job is to filter through them. But I had one person I was watching through the day. I'd refresh my page every minute, and they burned through the whole book in one day.
Wow.
I was like, that is a huge compliment to an author that someone sat down and just binged it, and I made like 50 cents.
Wow. So you could see from the backside, like how far they've read in the book, each person that buys it.
Yeah. You don't get to see the people, but like being my book's been out 3 weeks or something like that. Watching my number go from 0 to like, I think my Kindle edition is like 400 and some odd pages. Watching it go from 0 to 400 in one day, and I was like, that's somebody just binged my book in one day, which is a crazy feeling.
Yeah, that's very cool. So I bet that's awesome. So talk a little bit about, like we were sort of talking in the beginning, that this is sort of an age where if you write a book, you can self-publish.
Yes.
But as we were having our emails setting this up, we sort of talked about there's sort of a stigma with independent publishers or independent writers.
There definitely is. And you face that as they like to call them indie authors. I don't like that term. I think if you write something and you publish it, you're an author. Don't put any qualifier on it. I mean, that's an incredible undertaking for anybody to sit down and write a novel. Quality be damned. Like you sat down and finished something of massive undertaking. So drop the indie first off. Not you, just the royal you.
Yeah.
But also the flip side of that is the proliferation of self-publishing, and you can literally type up a 10-page essay, go on Amazon, create an account, and upload it, and it's ready. It's available for sale. Now, couple that with AI, the boom of AI. Now you've got mountains of people that spend a week writing a 250, 300-page novel, use ChatGPT to create a cover and upload it to Amazon, and then now that's another person that's clogging up the airways for people that are trying to actually make it as authors. Kind of forgot where I was going, but I don't think indie publishing is any less valuable than traditional publishing. Outside of traditional publishers have massive marketing budgets. When you're an indie publisher, most of what you have to do is free. You have to market yourself for free. Maybe you spend $20 on a Facebook ad. Like, you don't get a spot in, the New York Times or, People or anything like that. You don't get that kind of massive exposure. But also, if I were to put it this way, I started writing the Boatman in February. And if I finished mid-July-ish, my second draft, I finished at mid-July. If I would have tried to query that, it can take up to a year. Usually, if you have a good book, it can take up to a year to get an agent. Another 6 months to find someone that wants to publish it. And then once a publishing company buys that book, it could be another year or two before it even hits the shelves.
Sure.
So, I mean, I could have wrote the book in early 2025 and it not published till 2029. Self-publishing, I wrote it, I rewrote it, my wife edited it, and then I rewrote it again, designed the cover, published it. Like, I have full creative control. That also means I'm fully responsible for the results. I have no one to blame, right? If it doesn't sell, I can't just be like, dang you, Penguin. Like, right. So that's the trade-off. But indie publishing is not any less work than...
it's probably more work.
It's a lot of work. I was probably every night after my son went to bed, 3 hours of writing every night because I needed to get it done this year, right? And if momentum is better than motivation because if you keep doing what you're doing, it's easier than stopping and starting again. So I was writing, if you write 1,000 words a day, you can have a novel written in 3 months. That's the thing, right? So that's what I did. And yeah, so indie publishing is very hard.
Sure.
Although every author would want to be traditionally published, not gonna lie.
Well, yes, it does help whenever you have a publishing company's bankroll to help market and do stuff like that. But yes, being a small-time publisher, I think that is one of the great things about now. Before, I felt like there was a certain level of gatekeeping that happened because if you wanted to get published, you had to go through that process. Whereas now you do have that option of going through self-publishing avenues. And so it definitely opens up the world. But, I think blogging and things like that also open the door quite a bit.
Well, it's like film, right? I mean, for a long time it was cost prohibitive to make a movie. If you did, it was with a little Canon camera with your friends, and now you go on YouTube and you can find a myriad of indie films and stuff like that. So, it's the same. It's in the same vein. Amazon killed the bookstore, and then it made it very easy for everyone to publish. So now there's a million authors. I mean, the stat for books published on Amazon every day is, I want to say it's like 200,000. It's absolutely nuts. So, if you have a friend that published a book and they put a whole lot of effort in it and did not use AI, buy their book. It means a lot to them. In the sea of 200,000 books published a day, their one book that they worked really hard on. You support your friends.
Definitely check out the book. It's a great book.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add for us?
I don't think so.
We're going to include a link. The link will be in the description, so you can definitely check that out.
I do want to add one thing. You can buy it at Brace Books here in Ponca City.
Fantastic.
It's not in stock yet.
Okay.
Talking to them currently. But you can go on their website and search it and buy it from them if you want to support indie authors and local bookstores.
Was there any part of Pottersville that you drew from Ponca City, or was it all from...
It is set... In my head, it was set in rural Oklahoma.
Okay.
Kind of probably more towards the Salisaw, Podo.
Sure.
Part of the more swampy areas of Oklahoma. But yes, it was. You write what you know, right? So, in my head, it is very much a Oklahoma setting with dirt roads and stuff like that. So,
Are there going to be a continuation? I like I said, I didn't read the end of the book because if I read it, I would tell you all about it right now.
It is
So is there going to be a continuation to the? Do we get to see any of the characters next time?
So no, I don't think so. Yeah, they all die. It's a bad ending. No, it's a standalone novel. Okay. That being said, the epilogue does open up to a more connected universe because, pull back the curtain a little bit, readers love series, and that's where you can pull people from, because once they read one, they're like, well, now I got to read them all. So that's where you build your backlog, right? But it is a standalone, and the characters are of themselves, but the epilogue will explain itself if you get there.
Okay.
And I am already 12,000 words deep into book 2. So
nice. So that'll probably come out early next year.
Yeah, I'm aiming to be done by New Year's, with a first draft by New Year's of the next one. And then you can assume January, February, I'll be editing and proofing, and probably March or April, book 2, maybe even earlier, depends on how motivated I get.
All right. Very cool. All right, you guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Definitely check out Brace Books, the Boatman. And Kaleb, thank you again for coming by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Be back whenever you get your next book out, and we'll talk more later. All right, you guys. Thanks so much again. Check out the description for all the links to buy the book and where you can pick it up. Thanks so much, guys.